Hello, this is a special request video on how to do a candy cane ornament. We're going to make this particular one puffed so that it has a little bit more of a candy cane, actual candy cane shape. And this is pretty much everything you need. I went ahead and made the cording. I took the time to go ahead and do the darts, the fishing line. The Ultra Suede already has the fusible interfacing on the back. And of course I have my little thimbles that I always use. So let me get all of this good stuff out of the way and we'll get right back into it. Let's get started with doing the very scary part. And this is actually one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. So we're lucky that this particular design has 4 stitches. Sometimes they only have 3. And in that case, you have to choose which side to give more of the waste canvas to on the 3. Much of the time, it doesn't really matter. You just go with whichever side you want to. A lot of times I put if there's only one, because you have to cut it, and all you have is this one stitch in here, I usually do it to this larger side. I don't know why, but I just do. So I'm going to cut in here, just commit, just do it. I know it's terrifying. No! And we're going to cut it right up to that last stitch because we have to fold that right in. And we're going to come over here. We're going to do that stitch. And I'm going to do that stitch. Okay, and those are the next set down, which are here. Okay, it's so difficult to see. I hope you can see it. I do not have it on auto. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Okay, so on this side, you don't really need to dart down the side edges. I like to do it when they're straight. It's just a habit that I do. You want to really specifically do it on the curves. Sometimes I pick something up and I just go and I don't really think. Now I am going to leave the rest of these uncut. Try to keep them as stable as possible. And because we are working with a shape and we need to get said shape to trace around, we're going to fold these back, and am trying to make sure that to make that flat, curve those right around. I don't want to see any, when I look at it from the front, I don't want to see any waste canvas visually. If you bend it here like this, see how you can see the waste canvas still? You got to push that right on over. And if your edges are kind of thick from stitches that you may have used next to it, whether they were long or... This is so tidy. I'm so impressed, Diane. Sometimes when you steam it, press it and steam it, you can kind of manipulate it over more and press those down a little bit more if the edge seems very thick and does not want to roll over. Okay, so let's get this. Come on. The way around. Not quite sure why my hands just are not working today. It's one of those days. And you see, I am bending this so that I can get that pushed right up. Do you see that? I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do this side and get all of this turned over. Okay. Right. See, you can see I'm not really losing a stitch, okay? Because when you see you're not. You're not burying any stitches. That's why you do not need to overstitch. And if you overstitch around the outside, it makes this edge so thick you will not be happy trying to hide the border. You will need to leave that overstitching out so that it's visible, if anything. Okay, before I hit this last part, I want to try to get my iron steamed up here. Ooh, ay, ay, ay. Pull that. I was turning over a little too much. I got too much stuff on my table. I totally smacked the back of my hand on the on my cording vise. Excuse me while I take a second. Okay. Make sure that everybody's still rolled over. I show this in all my videos, but just in case you didn't watch the other ones, I want you to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Alright. I'm going to come right up here. I'm going to drop this in, and I'm actually going to take advantage of the steam that's coming out right now. And I'm going to quickly push this over. Utilize that softening of that sizing to be able to push it over. Okay, so I'm going to say this. If you're able to, depending on what the design is, on the opposite side, okay, if you have one that is designed that only has 3 stitches in between, do yourself a favor, and on the interior of this side of the candy cane, don't stitch one, so that you have 4 stitches in between, because look at how nice and thick that is. And you do have enough to be able to get this over a little bit better. If you doing 5, I think my concern with 5 would be that this side would become thinner than the opposite side. So just try to drop, not stitch one of those if it has only 3 in between, okay? Because that'll really, really make your life so much easier. So now I want to look at this and make sure it's still relatively square and hasn't really warped too much. I think it's actually pretty good. I'm going to give it a quick steam. Being careful, since this is the mighty steamer, apparently. Yeesh. Blasted my hand with that. Oh, I gave myself a bruise. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to move that off to a non-steamy part and let it cool. It does it fairly quickly. Okay. So the tricky part happens when we wrap this around. You can see there's just not much waste canvas there. It is the only part that we're going to do our best, but you will inevitably be getting a little bit of glue here to be able to hold it to your foam core. I try my best to keep it away from, but sometimes there's just certain designs that there's no way to do it without a little sun coming close. Okay. I don't want to for another reason. I don't want to have to try to sew through it. It's ridiculous. Okay, so here's our shape. And my instinct every single time is to just trace around it. No, 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 no. You flip it. And I will show you why in a moment. Okay, everything looks good. We're going to make sure that we have no goobers on our pen that are built up from using it. And we're going to straight down so it's not touching our needle point. We're going to go around it, and it's going to show every little bump in the canvas. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, got a lot of dust kicked up in here from the AC, pardon me. So here is why I do it upside down. Okay? When I cut this out with my X-Acto blade, oh dear, I have rogue fishing line on my table. Pardon for a moment. So what happens is as you're cutting it, if I put it like this, and I trace it like this, and I cut down through it like this, right? I've traced around it, and now I've cut through it. I cannot get that perfect line for the back side, because when you flip it over, right, like this, now this back side is going to be the perfect line around, and this side, you'll see. I'll show you. Let me cut. Oh, first I must do this. Now, because we're going to puff, we have to, if you weren't going to puff it, you're only going to take off 1/16 of an inch-ish. Of course, I don't have my tiny ruler close by. Here's a regular ruler instead of my quilting ruler. Yes. There's the quarter. Okay, 1/8, so it's like a 1/16. And actually, if you're using foam core, you have to come in almost an 1/8 because of the thickness. But if you're using mat board, it's only a 1/16, and that'll just wrap right around and be perfect. Okay, but even with mat board, I still bevel it. So, let me move this out of the way. So, I'm going to add puff to this. So I'm literally going to make this almost 1/4 of an inch, because if you do not allow space for the volume of the batting, you'll never get that waste canvas around. And we will test it, and hopefully I will not have to remove some batting before we completely go around. Use one of my lovely, so I don't get lost, one of my art erasers, because boy, this one is on the end of this pencil is toasty. Oxidized. I just want to go so much closer to the edge, but I know if I do that, visually, these lights sometimes make it difficult to see. What I'm doing. No. Okay. If you don't feel comfortable eyeballing it, you can take your ruler. I guess I'm doing not quite, it's not a full quarter. I guess that is more like just a little over an eighth. Okay, it's just something you kind of, again, I ultimately could come into the 1/4 inch, but I don't want to right now. I'm going to give it a little, I don't want to make it too skinny. Famous last words. You can just bring it around and decide, okay, I want it to be 1, 2, 3/16. All right, and just tick and do dots all the way around to make sure that you are exactly where you should be. Okay, and you just dot, 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 dot all the way around. And I can see right now that this, I did not get even enough for that. It's always the curved edges that get funky. Yeah. Okay, enough of that. Not gonna fuss too much on that. All right, I like to do long draw first. When I do this, I do put the tip of my X-Acto blade into my mat just a little bit. It allows me to control it a little bit better as I'm pulling it. Okay, and that is why I have so many cut marks on my mat. Now I'm going to keep turning, and I still am putting it right in. So I'm cutting all the way through, or I'm trying to. Sometimes I think I'm doing it and I'm not. Now, here, I'm cutting away and dropping it away. Now here's the thing. As I'm going around, if I had done this the other way, where I just took this and cut like this, the back side, which is what I need to establish the outer line perimeter, as I'm cutting, I'm kind of beveling in on the opposite side, and I would have a bevel, I would be too far in. So just trust me. To get the right shape, always flip it over like this, and that way when you cut it out, it will be the shape that you need when you flip this over. I've made myself crazy trying to do it the other way, and it just is too difficult to get those 90 degrees. All right, so I do draw down here first, and I draw down here. Take off that little bit. Okay, and I'm going to, oh, what the heck. I'm trying to make these cuts for you as easy as possible, but You do what is comfortable for you. Okay? And I always like to, whatever the curve is, I want to make sure, I don't want to try to do it this way. It's not a natural gesture with your hand. It's more natural to go like, to do the curve this way. I have to get my second pair of glasses on because progressive lenses are never quite enough when my eyes get tired. Right. I'm going to pick it up because I can feel that my blade is wedged too much that way into the mat. I'm going to pick it up and insert it again. Bring it around. Okay? And as you can see, because I picked it up, I didn't make it through all the way on that side. Ooh, now here's your least favorite part, maybe your favorite part, I don't know. A lot of people tell me they don't really love the beveling, but especially for this particular one, it's very important. So I'm bringing it in and notice the position of my hand. It puts it at just the right degree. I'm trying not to take off too much on this bevel. I already kind of beveled it as I was cutting it. Okay. All right. You can tell I've been doing a lot of detail painting lately because my eyes are, and you see as I'm taking that curve, I can feel it kind of getting chunked. And so you saw me kind of sawing with it. Don't force your blade if it feels like you're hitting it hard and it's going to make that lump. Go ahead and give a little cut, just a little wiggle like that, like I just did. If you need to rewind it, try it. And then you can do the long pull. And even with that, sometimes I put my blade into my mat a little bit because it helps me steady it. Okay? And all right. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. So we're gonna do this. All right. All right. And I am just pressing down that upper edge. So it almost puts it a little larger bevel on it because I'm pushing on the cardboard that is the top. Gives it even more without weakening the structure. Because we're going to kind of be pulling on this and then pushing it back and manipulating it a lot. Okay, so now when we put it back here, I think we can get a relatively good puff on that. But on this side, okay, so a lot of people want to try to make a template of this. Don't do that, because what'll happen is it'll be too small. Because this material, this ultra suede, is not as thick as this needlepoint. You always have to account for the backing, for how thick your material is and how it behaves. And we'll talk more about that when we get to it. But also, this is too thick for this particular design. So one of the reasons I really like this is you can literally peel it into whatever thickness you want. just make sure that the side that you peeled open goes down, because this has a nicer finish, flat finish on it, and this side, which was in the middle, that we pulled apart, tends to have displaced. You can see the nibs on the inside. It's just a little puffier and irregular. So I always like to use the top side there. Oh my goodness, I got some lovely eraser under my nail. Lovely. Okay. So, yep, that's our finished side. And as we cut it, I don't want to have to attempt to hold it. Glue it down. Okay. Alright. It's all on there. Okay. And now we're just going to cut straight through. Okay. I love the batting schniblets all over it, or polyester dust. Alright, this is always the fun part. Chase it around, and then you can come on to this side. Let's get rid of all of our junk. And actually, I'm going to take off that little bit right there. I'm pressing this down, and I can see. Okay. All right. Now, what we do is, okay, see how it's nice and square there? Now we're just going to angle our scissors, and we are going to take off this edge. We are going to give it a little trim. And this is because I don't want, when this compresses, I want to make this excess, I want it to be nice and thin at the edge. I don't want to compress that down and make my edges even thicker, and it just looks nicer, and it also helps with our volume issue. You know, if you've ever seen a really nice, if you've ever pulled apart a really nice couch cushion because you needed to clean it, they form it. They don't leave it square and try to jam it into something that has a curve to it, because it just doesn't look as nice. And it's going to look overstuffed, I guess, for lack of a better. Okay. Now, here comes the glue. So, how we start this is we pull all of this back. Okay, I know, Kelly, we just stuck it all down there. Yeah, I know, but we got to do it to get the shape. Now you could take a piece of tracing paper and trace over your design, but that doesn't get it wrapped over. got to make sure to really, you know, it eliminates, it really shows you the true size to start with. Okay, and these lovely little pieces here, let's get you right up where I can attempt to do magic with you. Okay. Let's see what this looks like when we set it in. Okay. I think it looks pretty good. Are you terrified? Don't be terrified. It'll turn out, I promise. I've done this so many times. Alright. Now, we are going to start with the sides, okay? We're going to push this close to this side. And we're going to glue it right up next to it. Okay? Push it up. Put your finger in there. I'm waiting for the glue to cool a little. I don't want to singe all my skin, my fingerprints off. I might not even have any left at this point. That's a great assumption on my part that I do. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, on the opposite side. Push this up, give it a tick. Be wary. Okay. Oh, okay. Now, there it is there. Yes, I just bent my foam core. I don't care. Normally I would care, but on this right now, not caring. Okay, so here's one of the things. When you're doing something that is puffed like this, and you take away more of the of this arch in between, and we have those fabulous 4 stitches, what happens is you have this huge gutter area that if you don't puff it, and you tried to do this with no puff in it, and you traced it out, and it is literally 1/4 of an inch wide, you're not going to have this big lovely area here to sew into. Okay, yes, that glue got hard. Don't worry about it. We can heat it up again. So the point is that sometimes it behooves us to make it puffed, because now we have increased this area here. And you say, well, Kelly, why don't I just make it this big? Well, if you do that and you put this in, what's going to happen if you make the center part big but you have no puff in there? What happens is you'll start pulling that around, and you'll have to basically bury 4, probably 2 on this side and 2 on this side stitches, because it needs to wrap around. Or you find it looks like this on the interior, but then when you go to pull this around the outside with no puff, what happens? These outer stitches will pull all the way around the board and into the back side. And you don't want that. I mean, look at this lovely stitching. You don't want to lose all of your pretty stitches that you have creatively decided this is the perfect thing to emulate your mountains. Okay? So, here we go. I'm going to take these reheat up this glue, just putting that tip right in there. I'm going to do it here too to get rid of that big goop that was there. I'm going to edge this with glue. Needle nose pliers, fabulous thing. Bring it up, push it in, okay, and I'm just going to grab those little bits of waste canvas. I might, yeah, I have enough room to grab those few bits right there. And look at how much of that glue I'm just pulling away. I'm not even, it never even hit it. Okay, there. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna pull that with my finger and pull it in. Okay. It really is one of the few designs where puffing it kind of gives you some good things, because then when you come in with the cording, depending on the size cording that you make, it can be really difficult to put it in when you put the back on and to put cording in between those. I have a special thing that I am going to attempt that I have never attempted before with this for the cording. It's a special idea I had thanks to Diane. And the way she wanted this finished. Okay. Yeah. Looks good. Get that big blooper off there. All right. So now, and then I put my finger right in it. So now what I'm going to do is I don't want to pull this really tight. Oh, I want to get all that waste canvas around. It's okay. Look at all that room we have. I could have maybe even left some more of that batting under there. But we're going to let the batting that's there be nice and puffed. Let its volume be nice and big. We're just going to pull this around. Dull needle, I need you. Okay, so we got that there. And bring this down here. I'm going to pull the ends. How do I want to do this? I think I want to do middle one first. Around these curves that are on the insides, it's all about how you layer them. Okay? Nice and slow. We don't worry about. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing is that as I'm pulling this around, there is not much foam core under the tip of this, because when I cut it, did my 1/4 inch around, I took a little too much off, but that's okay because it's going to be backed with a piece of foam core. Oh, thank you for using your Jake brake, Mr. Truck Driver. Sorry about that. Oh dear. Sounds like a farty pants truck out there, doesn't it? Okay. Now, I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to compress this and kind of roll it with my hands because I can feel that that batting is doing something funky there. Okay. And I'm going to do the interior first. All right. Okay. goes to the end of the glue. Okay. Everybody's on. All right. I'm going to kind of push this batting with my finger back towards the other side so that it kind of fills the middle more. And I can tell that I was not as generous with my cutting. I did not take as much off of this side. If I feel that it's too tight and it's not going to give me enough loft there, I can take my blade and trim just a skosh off of it, but I'm not going to. I think it'll be fine. All right, dull needle, come on. Push this batting in a little bit. Pushing, just tuck, tuck, tuck. Tuck, tuck. You'd think I wear a hat where I keep that dowel needle tucked in it all the time, because I use it throughout my day. Well, you'd kind of be right. I use it in so many things. It's ridiculous. Right? Okay. Or tapestry needle, whatever you want to call it. Embroidery. All right. Boy, this really gives your fingers a good workout. All right. I can tell that right there I didn't get much glue. And I want to have a little in there, because when I do my special cording trick, I'm probably not going to want it moving around. All right. All right, again, we're stacking it. Oh, I just bent it again. Dang it. I hate that. I don't want to do that, but it will be okay. All right. Okay. All right, here you can see that I have a whole lot of room up at the top again. So we are only going to put it over as much as it needs to fold over there. We're not going to try to pull it around really tight. It'll be fine. Okay. Hey. Okay. I don't think I did it that far. Nope. All right. I want to look at the side. When I look at the top, I see nothing. Yay, yay, yay. I do not want to see waste canvas. None, none, none. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I want to look at something. I'll look at my curves here. Okay. Yeah, I definitely want that. Yep. 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 So this curve. This particular design has kind of a squared. So sometimes I like to look at it from the front. And I don't like to bury much, but sometimes I, do pull a little around there. the same because I don't want it to look wonky from the front. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing and manipulating so that it looks okay from the front. Yeah, I need to pull you like that a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And so this glue has hardened, so we're just going to stick the end of our, or even the side of it, without hitting the rest of the needle point, so you get schmutz glue from the rest of it on there. Okay. All right. Okay. And there we go. And just so you can kind of see, it has a nice little curve to it already. So we look candy cane-ish. Okay. All right. Now, what's next? Well, the back is next. And because we have this, schmutz, schmutz, schmutz. All these little things. Glue, spider webs everywhere. Okay. Now, I want to make sure to kind of get it pressed down. And this time, again, make sure there's no extra ink there. And this time I'm kind of angling my pen so that it goes under that edge a little. Because if I do it straight, 90-degree angle, this wider part is going to hit the outside and it's going to add. I don't want to add. I don't want my back to be bigger than my front. Okay? Yes. Now, I do not have a really thick fabric, so I don't need to be concerned with taking a little edge off of this. Okay? I will cut to the interior of this line. Actually, I want to switch over. I will cut to the interior so that it brings it in just a little bit. Okay? All right. No, I'm doing all right. Pulling that the wrong way. Much easier to take the curve this way. Okay. Good, good, good. And I did not take off all that ink, but that's okay. I have to tell you, my friends, I'm a little tired today, so I apologize if I don't seem quite on. Okay, let's hit that, that last little curve. And kind of going to saw this one out. Okay. Wow, there. All right. See, I'm tired. Not doing what I just told you to do, which is the easy way. Pull it towards you. Alright, so we're going to do the bevel. Bevel. I know, you get tired of me talking about my ridiculous bevel. I did not take enough off of this because when I cut it, I had my blade kind of out. Chop, 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 chop. Chop, chop. And long. You see I do that little choppy thing when I cut into it. Start again. Oh. And ta-da! Like it's magnificent. Not even close. You know what makes it beautiful? It's done. That's a florist joke. Because flowers are always pretty, and how do you ever tell when something is truly done? Alright. That totally didn't make sense. I'm sorry. Alright. But wait, what? No, don't get afraid. I've done that before too. Not been so brilliant and didn't flip it the right way or didn't cut it on the right side. Oh wait, the thick side. Let's see if we can do it. I think we can. I'm going to put a little extra because I think that's what didn't help my last one, but my last one was so much skinnier. I could have put that right to the edge. What was I thinking? Here we go. With the thick stuff, I always kind of do big chunks out of it. Big lines. It's much harder to make a gentle curve when it's this thick. AC's on again. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. I don't normally like to do this because I like to come at something like this, but you just obviously can't. There. Struggling a little there. So poofy. Look at the poof on that. Now, I'm going to, I kind of alluded to it earlier, that I'm doing something in a manner in which I don't normally do. And you may see an edit where you go, wait, Kelly, that is totally what you normally do. I don't understand. You said you were going to do something different with this cording. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to bore you with showing you something that does not work. So, but I will leave in the little bit that explains what I'm trying to do. And if it, because I don't want to tease you like that either. I don't know about you guys. I'll kind of talk about it as I'm cutting this. I don't know about you, but on things that have this close, the gap is so tight there. It can be extremely difficult to sew on cording. And some of you are going, woohoo, doesn't apply to me. That's okay. I'm going to show you how you can do tight areas like that. Okay? And not curse my name because I said there's only one way to do this. I tried to come up with an idea of how I could do it. Not only for you, but why not make my life easier? Okay. Now, the nap on this is directional. So we're going to, yep, that's up. This is down. Flip it over. And we do the same thing on this that we do on our needlepoint. Is we are going to do the interior of this first. And it's, I don't want to take off too much, but I need to make this a little more manageable to hold. Okay. I want to leave as much around the outside so that when I put this in, cut, and I glue it up in there, I still have lots to be able to fold over and keep as much of this puff as possible. All right. And you're thinking, Kelly, come on. Isn't there an easier way? No, there is not. But I am going to say this. I am going to take this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to tack it there. I'll probably pull it off. But this way, it's held at that end, and I'm not going to be fighting with it. All right. Okay. Here we go. Let's hope this works, because I think this is the last piece of this blue that I have. Shove that stuffing in there. Okay. We're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to take this. Where's my butter knife? Come on, butter knife. Alright, that at least got it settled. Okay. It's up there. Okay. Take this and put a little clip. A little clip. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing right there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We talk quiet when we're doing dangerous things. Or we'll maybe not dangerous. I think that's a bit overstating, but dramatic. Okay. Let me see. Is this gonna... Well, I'm just gonna go for it. Okay. I'm gonna put that right in there. Alright. Take this. I'm just gonna use my finger. I'm gonna push it up there. Like that. Push my finger in there like that and pull. Did I get some? I might have to put more darts in. Oh, I undid it. All right. Come on. Push that right up in. I hope I didn't just scar the fabric on the other side. Oop. I got it. Okay. I got it. Try not to reheat all of it. Probably should have put a couple more darts a little deeper in it. One of the reasons why I like ultra suede, especially for projects like this, where I need to manipulate the fabric in curved areas, is because it doesn't shred. Otherwise, I might have to use like stitch witchery. To make it so that it won't fray. Not stitch witchery, fray check. Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to look at this side. I want to see how we're doing. No matter what, we're gonna have a few pull marks, but we're gonna be okay. In a curve, it can't always, in a puff, it can't always be perfect on an interior curve. So what we're gonna do is we're going to start, hold on. I am going to start, yes, up here. Take your 1/4 inch, and you know, maybe you don't want to deal with the puff. Okay, but you do it exactly the same way. Okay, it exactly the same way. So we're going to take this, nip scissors. I do 3 darts. Because once you put down 1 dart, it's too hard to dart it more afterwards. I'm trying to give plenty, you know, some nice loft here, so I'm not pulling it super tight around it. Okay. Then I'm going to, just like if you were upholstering a chair, which if you do this, more than likely you've upholstered a cushion. Okay, well, if you haven't upholstered a cushion, this is what you do when you're upholstering a cushion. You come over to the opposite side and you tack things down on the opposite side so that everything gets done at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and dart all of these for now. I'm doing it a little smaller because as we make this curve, I want these to be finer. You might think, oh, Kelly, that's not making much of a difference. Well, maybe it doesn't. It just makes me feel better. How's that? Okay. Now, because I'm coming around that corner, oof, this is so puffy. Look at how puffy that is. Sorry, I'm talking to it like I'm talking to my dog. Alright. I might have to take that down just a little bit more even. Okay. No, I'm going to take that off. Alright. Now, I'm going to pull this. Get these darts out of the way. Now, get around to this side. More than likely, I'm going to have to reheat this area to pull this in, but maybe not because it's ultra suede and it hides a lot of boo-boos. Not pulling it very tight at all because I want that loft on this side to be there. Okay. All right. And now I'm going to do the bottom here. Get these laid over. Triangulette there. Now I can see that I definitely, now that I have this in place, definitely want to pull that in. Okay, and now I can come in, cut that dart back a little bit further. So when these lay down, hopefully they don't create too much bulk, which it looks like they're going to. Okay. Hold and press. Get them glued down nice and tight. And if you need to, because they're too bulky, go in and nip their little heads off. Or feet off, whatever you want to call them. And, okay. And there. And there. Okay, now let's look at this side and make sure it's not ew. No, I think that's actually pretty good. It's tough to get that curve to be. Ooh. I love ultra suede. Velveteen can be really nice, except it frays like crazy. And it can be difficult in that respect. But it is very stretchy. And even, I mean, look at how stretchy this is, even though I use fusible interfacing. Crazy. Okay. I'm going to work my way that way. Just suck it up and do it. Okay, because I need to take that little bit off there. Okay. Let's push some of that puffy batting back under where it needs to be. Alright. And boop. And these two. Angle that one in. Angle that one in. Okay. Otherwise they'll make little pucker marks right there, which just tried to go back. Okay. And dart. Just gonna go ahead and get these done. Dart, dart, dart. Right. You can fast forward this anytime. Not really seeing anything that is of consequence at this moment. Well, wait. Okay, so when you do this next part, I would do the long edge so that it all kind of wraps together, and you can come over to this side and you can look at it and make sure that how much you want to compress it, because you don't want this part really super fat, poofy, and this part not as poofy. It's just on that curve in general, the way you wrap it, this is going to be compressed a little bit more. See, just like there. So we don't want this to be super, super fat. Or maybe you do. It is all up to you. There is no right or wrong way. It is just something that could happen. So you've been warned. Okay. And okay. Keep away from the edge a little. I'm going to bring it around there. Pull all that around there. Pull this around here. It's kind of one of the reasons why sometimes I like doing darts all the way down, because now I have to fight with this long piece of flat. I'm going to make sure I don't pull one section tighter than the other section. Stringies. So I'm going to teach you a little trick about hot glue that I just shared, and hopefully you're not fast forwarding through this point. If you have someplace where you see a little bit of hot glue may have gotten onto your fabric and you can't pick it off, but it looks kind of white, like this. See, like that there, right there, looks very white. And it's very blatant on the back side of your piece. And you go, I am not taking all this off and redoing this. I'm not doing it. Well, you might want to try to take your iron, and I'm going to make the example here. Okay, see, when I just did that with my finger and I pressed it down, it's very matte. Okay, and you can see how dark it is. Now, this might not work on this fabric on this side if something like that ever happened. But if you have like a little spot, okay, I see a boo-boo. See, there's a bulge. See the bulge? I don't like that. So we need to come back in here and heat this up. And, oh, libbity gibbet, where is my doll needle? Ah, right in front of my face. Grab this. We heated that up, and now we can pull it in. And I'm going to lift this. Oh my goodness. You gotta really keep an eye on what you're doing on this side, because if I pull it too tightly, I might get an uglier ripple. Okay, that's not so horrible. A little less bulgy. Okay, that happened when I pulled that other piece up. And I can see right here that this piece needs to have a little dart there because it's starting to curve. I need my doll needle to kind of push some of this batting back in. Okay, I'll just use my big old finger. All right, and now I'm cupping this with my hand, my fingers, so I can come around here and trim this down. And then I'm going to show you the glue trick, I promise. I'm sorry, I got all distracted by the little bulge there. All right, is it going to leave a, no, it's not. Okay. So we're going to put some glue down. Start pulling that on. Trying not to make big pucker marks. Like that. Okay. And you can always come in, put your hot glue there to reconstitute the glue that's underneath, hopefully. Okay. Do. All right. Up. Okay, you won't see that. Okay, that just flipped, and I don't want it flipped. Okay. Let me see. Okay, give it a second because I gotta get my hot glue or my iron hot. Okay. All right. So let me do a quick tidy up here. Here we have. Where the heck did I put my cording? Oh, there. Okay. So here we have, oh, I forgot. So now we take our fingers and we pinch that bevel and we pull it. See, it's literally going to curve in. Let's just do that right now. Ah, finger stuck. Okay, and why are we doing this? Because then when we put the two pieces together, the gutter that is between the two pieces will be much less. Now, if you need to, because that makes your thumb hurt, like it just did mine, and now we're coming into this interior, I'm just going to grab this, I'm going to push it like this with my knife, get that edge pushed down. Yet another excellent bevel benefit. There we go. I got it. Let me take this. I don't want any glue. Okay. So I'm going to use this little piece of glue right here. You can see it. Kind of got a white sheen to it, right? All right. I'm just going to hover over this. Trying not, I might not be able to do it here. So what you do is you take your glue gun and you heat it up, right? And now it's nice and kind of shiny. You want it to stay shiny. Little spit, put it on there. It doesn't stick to your finger, and it leaves it with a shine instead of a matte. So that sometimes if it's in an edge or if it's someplace you want to try to just make it go away so that it isn't this big white glop on there. The issue is with the iron, it would have worked if I'd had my steam on it so it went and puffed at it, but I'm holding it and I don't want to undo everything I just did on this. All right, so go ahead and fast forward. I'm going to just push these bevel edges under on this and I will be right back with you. Okay, here we are. I don't like you. Are you weird little pucker? Okay. All right. So now we're going to put the cording on, right? We're going to glue these together. No, we're not. We're not doing that. Haha. What I'm going to attempt to do is I am going, I do this technique when I have leather coasters that I can't, well, because they're maybe pleather and not real leather, and or fabric that is really delicate that I'm using on the back side of an ornament, essentially what I do is I sew the cording to the edge, right, of the needlepoint versus going through the delicate fabric. Now, this fabric isn't delicate. I can go straight through it. I have a interfacing on it. Great. But it's in here. Now that you have two, right? And if you can see here, when I put these together, there's only one spot like right here that I'm going to have to make sure to pinch. You literally cannot see any canvas till there. And you can see the white of the foam core up in there, but when I glue the back to the front, I'm just going to pinch that down, right? Well, actually, what I'll do is I will hold it. I'll hold it like this. I will put my fingers, especially there, because we know that this end has an issue. And actually, all I have to do is this. Let's just fix this before I go any further. And push that under. More. There. Okay. Not great, but it's around. Okay. So we're not going to do this yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, all right, we're going to put that there. That's where our center is going to be. And I'm going to tack that on there like that. All right. Because I'll sew it on there. Don't worry. It's going to get sewn. But yes, I am going to glue that on instead of putting a bunch of pins in there. And then I got to try to sew around the pins. And I make myself crazy. I'm crazy enough. I don't need help with that. Okay. Again. First time doing this. If I epically fail, I will admit that it didn't work. Of course. All right. And then what'll happen is I'm going to sew it right to this edge like this, all the way around, just like I normally would, right? But then what'll happen is when I glue the back to the front, this will roll into that gutter. It will, trust me, because I do it all the time. All right, if you do not want to watch me sew this on, this is your time to go ahead and fast forward. All right. Nice long piece. And there. And then, my thimble. And my thumb. Knot, and I glue it because it just stays, and it totally unwound. Brilliant. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I'm gonna need you maybe. Jeez. All right. All right. So, I really hope this works, because doing the interior curve is such a pain. It's such a pain. Such a pain. All right, excuse me, I'm gonna have to bring you back here a little bit. All right. I will say this, it's definitely does not feel as uh, stable as when I have the two pieces of foam core glued together. So you want to be careful on, as you're pulling this needle through, bending this foam core too much. You don't want to do that. Um, I have glue on my needle and it does not want to go through. No big shocker there. Okay. This is why I typically attempt to not have it near glue near the edge. But I just came right up through the back side of this into a place where I typically wouldn't have it. And you know what I might do? I think what I'm going to do is once I get around this curve, I'm going to go ahead and mount the other piece to this so that we have the stability, but also so that we can grab some of the fabric on the way around so that both sides are also sewn together, not just glued together. And you might say, well, why didn't you just do that by starting here and doing the interior curve? Because it's the first time I'm doing this and I didn't think of it before. And also that would be too difficult to start the cording midway and have it work correctly back the other way. So what I'll do is once I get around here, because it will be, for some of you who try to do it with the back, sew this cording on with the back on, It's going to be a very big challenge that you'll definitely appreciate, having only this side to have to come through. Kind of really actually loving it. Because like there, it just skated right through. Alright, coming back here. Now, I can see that I have a little bit of canvas showing there. I want to make sure I grab on that side of the stitching, not way on the back side. So it keeps that cording a little to the front. But we're not going to worry too much about that because it's covering it. It's covering it. Now, the part where it's going to get dicey is where we come into this area and we do not have waste canvas back here to sew into. Okay, we're not going to panic. And if I have to come back down and tack you, I will. We'll see where we're at by the end. Give this a little twist. All right, I am going to switch to a smaller curved needle. Yes, I am. Because, and you know, at this point you may end up, I don't really see how you can, but you may end up switching to a straight needle. I personally wouldn't. As you can tell, not a fan of the curve of the straight. It's too difficult to manipulate angles, at least for me. You don't need to defend your curved needles, ladies, or your straight needles. They all have my love. Okay, so I'm going to put that down so that I can pull and really get that tight. Okay. Without having that wrap around and get funky. Okay. Of course, a smaller curved needle means smaller stitches. So I think what I'm going to do, so that I don't rip this waste canvas to shreds, is I'm going to come up way in on the foam core. Okay, like that. Okay, and I can see that that's pulling one of these tinies. And since I don't have the backing on there yet, not taking any chances of losing. I'm going to do it to you too. Okay. And I'm sorry it's taking me extra long to do this way, because it is my first time doing it this way, but I definitely think it's worth it to be able to have this sewn. It's a heck of a lot easier than doing it the other way, just saying. Okay, now I'm coming in on that side into the needle point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to angle it way up there. Okay. I want plenty of foam core for resistance. Some glue that I don't want there. Another little spider web from my table. Oh yeah. Good. It's all pulling nicely. So now, because I am almost straight above it, going to make the turn. Ah, get off. So now I'm going to bring this, curve it back. Okay. And I'm going to twist it. I can see I'm going to put it right through that one. Okay. So I'm going to bring it in this. Like that. Yep, yep, yep. I think the metallic thread is going to hide the sins of my fishing line a little as well. Alright, so now I'm pushing that just like that. Oh yeah, that worked. Now I'm going to come in right. I'm gonna get up here close to my eyeball and in the light. Right next to this star stitch. I can feel it's coming up and it's not hitting any foam core. So I'm gonna come bring it over. Okay, there. Now this is kind of close to the edge. So I got my finger. Oh dear. Get out of there. Got my tail trapped. Seriously. Jeez. Okay. So pull that thread in. I'm going to make sure. Oh yeah, look at how nice that cinched in there. Perfect, perfect. I love it when things work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, maybe, and put a little dollop right over the foam core where that fishing line comes in to kind of reinforce. Okay, I can see I need to go in through here, out. No, that's not right. I need to come in and out here. I know you're saying, Kelly, it cannot be more difficult to have the back on there to do this. It is. It's very, for me, this is for me, because I find that getting ample coverage of stitches, not seeing my mechanics on the other side, I think this is, it's better. It's easier for me. And you can see that I have now, that's kind of rolling. It'll be okay. It'll be okay, I promise. Okay. So now we are getting caught on everything. And you may decide to not do it this way. I am just trying to offer you a different way that could potentially be a little easier to do that interior curve. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, I'm going to lay it down, right, and I'm going to knot it off. And we're going to get that back put on so that we can hold this and get it nice and tight. Okay. Right. And we always pull our needle through. Do not cut it right where the knot is. Okay. All right. I really could have kept that on there. Brilliant. But that's just kind of how things are at the moment. Okay. Yeah. I think that's good. All right. You wouldn't even know there wasn't a back piece on there. So now I'm going to take this. Oh, and I don't. Brilliant. Hold on, guys. Extra glue sticks in my... Okay. Leave a divot because you have extra things that go there. You don't want this squeezing out like a jelly donut. You really just want it to help hold that in place while you sew it around the edge. Okay? And you do want it to kind of grab. Okay, is that good there? That's good there. There. And now bring this down. And push. I'm actually going to boop. See? Jelly donut happening right there. So we just push that along. And head. See if I need to pinch that harder. Get that down there. Yeah, I think that looks good. Look at that. You got your cording right there on that edge. Might like to shove that over just a skosh, but I think it's okay. Yeah. Oh, hold please. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get our needle back in here. And let's get it finished up. Let's just go ahead and get a new piece on here. Okay. Thumb thing back on. Alright, so get this pulled over. There, look at that. Pulled it right in there. Okay. Just might give that a little push from this side. There we go. go. All right. Going to come up because again I'm kind of fighting this. Oh. I should have went further. Okay. Oh, whew. I always kind of sweated on that, making sure that I did it enough, long enough. Piece of cord. Make sure it's pulling in there. Yep. Okay. Well, it's definitely easier to hold on to when you have the back on. Look at the doll. Come on. There it is. Right. I'm going to take this because this end I still didn't really get it that great when I was so worried about that other spot. Grab the material, pull it. I hope I actually have had this on camera this whole time. Alright, there. And cinch it down. Pull it together as we tighten it. There we go. Nice, nice, nice. Caused a little pucker. Now, back here. That's from my needle pushing through. Watch that. Grab this a little differently. Sorry, I was just mashing that up against me. Now, obviously, the back side is a little puffier than the front side, but we knew that was going to happen. Okay. Stop for a second. Going to tie this off. A little more. Okay. Home stretch. Wait, what? Okay. Ta-da! All right. Bring this up a skosh. Now, I'm going to get that loop sewn on. Give it as much stabilization as possible. Push this through this end. There we go. I was getting worried. Not turned, so it shouldn't flip like that. Come on, fabric. Good grief. Well, that's where I did my first thing, and I apparently did too much glue. Okay. Come on. And then I'm going to take this. I'm going to grab this. So I'm trying to kind of close the edge gap of the cording. And come here. Now, I want to make this look as finished and nice as I possibly can, so that if Diane does not like my bow, she can do a different one. Okay? Alright. Take this and go through here. Oh, sugar. Just looped it right around it. Okay. Okay. Now a little, gonna knot it. And then we're gonna do a bow. Now, I'm going to do something that's kind of airy, I think, because I really don't want to hide any of her lovely stitching. Right. Good, good, good. Okay. Look at that. Now we leave that on. I'm going to go grab some ribbon. All right, I'm going to try and see how it looks, because sometimes it might look too heavy, and I don't want that. I just really think it would be nice if I could use this blue because it's such a perfect color. So we just layer the ribbons on top. Take this off. No. Okay. Like I said, not very big. Okay. And oh no. I think maybe just two. Again, keeping it a little smaller. So you just keep loop and pinch and loop. I tend not to use tails on my bows because I don't like them sticking down and to the needle point, covering up the prettiness. Come on. Don't. Get in there. There. Okay. Trying to make sure that that fishing line is centered. Sorry, I have to use my teeth to make these tiny bows. Now, I'm going to grab on to this fishing line between my two fingers. Okay, see that? All right, and I'm going to kind of put my finger in the loop and I'm going to yank this around because I am going to be cutting those off completely. I just want to try to get them over so I don't have to hide them too much on the back side. This is where the making it the hot glue look shiny is important. Okay, so now I'm going to just take these right down. Okay. That. See that? How that did that weird little thing there? I don't want that. Yeah, I think that's going to look cute. So Diane thinks so. Now, I have put a little on the end of my finger. Okay. A little spit on the end of my finger, yes. And that is why. Because it'll have a shine to it instead of matting it, which then you can readily see becomes, you know, kind of blatantly obvious. Hold tight. Okay. Alright. That side's done. Now, cut this side. You may not want to do this, but it's just, I have a thing about little, I want the pretty needlepoint to show through. And it's not that bows are bad. I'm not condemning bows. I'm not anti-bow. Although I have noticed a lot less people like bows on their stuff now than they used to on their pieces. Okay. He looks a little small. I'm going to pull him over a little. I don't know how much I can now. There. There we go. Yeah. What did it do to our back? Okay, we're good. All right. Oh, we're so close to done. Not even putting it on the right finger anymore. Okay. Boop. Now we are on the back side, so let's get us on the front side. So we're going to go right through. And I'm only going to catch this first stitch. Maybe. Come on. Alright. Now, anytime we bend and manipulate our needlepoint, we know we can get it back to where it was just by giving it a little push. Okay. And we're going to grab on to, push it right through there. bugger. Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, you don't like the tails? Well, guess what? Tails don't like you either. And they just gave you just put a lot of glue there. So we're going to go back through the center. We're going to go through the middle of the bow instead of side to side to put it on for now. Okay, like that. And we're going to go right through the middle. Okay. And I'm going to come in here. That's about 2 stitches down from the top. Putting my needle in. And 2. There. I'm going back through the back. And we sit that. What did I do? Figure it out? Yep, it's on. Now, I'm going to push these loops up higher, okay, like this, to sit like this, okay, but first, back through the center, I'll give it at least 2 pass-throughs. Again. Okay. Okay. Kind of push it up on to the cording more. Okay. My skin just caught on that ribbon. Boy, this stuff really dries out your skin, that's for sure. Pull it really tight, hold that down with your finger, and so you're done. Okay, and we pull this through, all the way through. Okay. Ugh, glue stringer. Spider web. And my needle just pushed that forward. Alright, here we go. And okay. Alright. Okay. Looks a little cockeyed down there in my camera. Okay. And there it is. Here's the back side. And look at your little fatty. Okay, Diane, I hope you like this. I hope it helps everyone to be able to tackle the candy cane with confidence. And good luck. Happy finishing.